Hi everyone, welcome back to Adrian's Digital Basement. On today's video, we're going to be taking a look at this terminal, but before we get started, I just want to make a couple quick announcements. I wanted to mention that I'm going to be at 2 Vintage Computer Festivals this year, at least confirmed 2 so far. I'm going to be at VCF Southeast in Dallas, that's on June 14th through the 16th in 2024, and also VCF Midwest in Chicago, and that's September 7th and 8th, also 2024. So if you happen to be thinking about going to one of those shows, well, I'm definitely confirmed to be at both of those. And I'm also trying to arrange a couple other things this year, and I will announce that when those plans are firmed up. So back to the video. This is a test and try. I have this DEC VT-220 terminal here, and I have a video coming up on the main channel where I wanted to have a working terminal again. And well, let's just see if this thing works. It was recently given to me. I have no idea about it. A VT-220 terminal. This is a, well, it's a serial console terminal that was released by Digital Electronics Corporation. And it's mainly used to plug into systems that require serial consoles. So I guess I want to see if this thing works. I want to open it up, take a look inside, see if there's no refuzz or anything like that inside, and well, play around with it a little bit. So this is the VT-220 terminal. It's definitely a little bit yellowed. It's got a little bit of a, I don't know, there was a sticker here that kept it from yellowing in that one spot. Actually, this is a curved sticker. You can't really see it, but on the top, it has a little bit of a curve to it. And what I mean by that is this was probably a sticker that went onto an old tape, like a reel-to-reel tape. Almost certainly if this was plugged into like a DEC VT, which is commonly what these were used with, the tapes that used were those, I think 9-track tapes they're called, and the stickers that went on them kind of followed the contour of the case, and it looks like that's what someone stuck here. It kind of has a little bit of a curve there, and on the top where you can't really see, it's also curved. So that's kind of interesting. Looks like this badge here has fallen off. I'm assuming it said VT-220 at some point. That's a little bit of a shame. Thing's a little bit dirty. I have the matching keyboard here. It's got the ISO keyboard layout because it has a big ass enter key. It is a normal QWERTY layout, and I can see that the keys have a good amount of wear on them, so they have definitely been typed on quite a bit. I gave the monitor here a little bit of a clean before we started this video, just wiped it down. It was pretty dirty. In fact, someone had drawn a happy face on the CRT with a Sharpie, but a little alcohol that just came right off without any issues. Keyboard I didn't touch though. It is definitely a little dirty. And really back here, this sticker here just says use only the keyboard cable recommended. So I guess don't use a phone cable because it does just look like a normal phone cable here, or like a handset cable. So maybe it's wired differently. That's a warranty void if removed sticker. It's sort of funny it's right there where there's no screw underneath it. So it's not like you would break that taking this thing apart. It's got rubber feet. Those are still in place. There's a rubber foot there. You can route the phone cable or the keyboard cable out this side of the keyboard or out this side. And other than it being a little bit dirty, all the keys are there. It's got this orange key there, and I thought these were normally like PF keys, like function keys, and they're all blank on this particular keyboard. Oh, unless there is something written on the top there. I can't really read it from over here. The key feel of this, the switch feel, is pretty mushy, not great. It's kind of a linear action. This thing is dirty, so it's just the whole thing not super great. But it's nice to get the matching keyboard, although luckily these DEC keyboards are relatively common, and I think, well, I think even more modern ones would be compatible with this terminal. All right, turning our attention to the terminal itself, you might notice the angle of the terminal because it's got a little bit of a kickstand, and I kind of like this design on these. You push this button here, and there's this kickstand on the bottom, which flips down or flips up, and I think that's the normal setup of the monitor if it's just sitting normally. But if you would like to angle the back of the monitor up so you're not looking at this tilted screen, you tilt it forward like that, you lift it up, and then you push this thing, and the little kickstand kicks down, and when you let go of the button, it locks into place. Well, pretty much. I think there's a few different positions, and then that allows you to have, well, the front angle that you so desire. Now, looking at the front of this, we have a power LED there, and on the side, there are 2 sliders here for brightness and contrast, I am presuming. I don't remember, I'm feeling up the sides of both sides, where the power switch is. It must be on the back. All right, here we are on the back, and yes, we have a nice giant power switch here. Is that a button? I guess that's maybe a cover for a screw. We have a connector here that says 20 milliamps, so I'm assuming that's a current loop, which is a way to interface these types of terminals to devices that were originally designed for teletypes. Not super familiar with that. All my experience using these terminals was over normal RS-232 serial, which this 25 pin connector here that's labeled COM is definitely that. Also, we have a BNC jack right here, and I asked someone about this. I thought that was kind of interesting. It just has a little picture of what looks like a monitor there, a little icon. And indeed, apparently this is a composite video output for hooking this up to external monitors. If you were, say, wanting to have someone be able to see your screen, you could just plug a normal monitor into that. So you could have this facing you, with a keyboard typing away, and say you were at a desk where you were facing customers, you could have another monitor that faces them, and they'd be able to clearly see your screen. Kind of cool. IEC mains input, keyboard input, another 9-pin connector here, a DE9. I'm assuming that's for an external printer. And down here we have model VT-220-C2. It's going to be a bit hard to read. Looks like we have a multi-voltage power supply from 100 all the way to 240 volts with a selector switch there, so I'll check to make sure that is correct. Very nice. They have information printed right here for the fuse. 250 volts, 2 amps if you're running at 100 to 128 volts. And looking inside that selector, it's set for 120 volts. That means that someone didn't try to power this up with the wrong voltage set, which theoretically could damage the monitor. If we look at the bottom of this thing, I think we'll just be able to see that kickstand mechanism that I was talking about right here. So indeed, if we push this lever here, that allows you to move this through this amount of motion, and then see it locks into place when I let go of that button. Look at this font here, VT-220. I really kind of dig that. Made in Hong Kong. Do we have anything about the year that this was made? Don't see it here. It says DBP Directive 1115/1982. I don't think this thing is from 1982. I think this is from later. Now, way back in the day, I worked at a place that had these terminals because this place used DEC VAXs for all the employees to use. In fact, they would run WordPerfect on the DEC VAX, and everyone had these terminals. And then the printers were hooked up through kind of print servers. So in the WordPerfect software, they could print and they could pick which printer it wanted. So the printer wasn't connected to this. They would print through the print server. I recall these had amber screens, and I think I've seen some of these that have really bad cataracts. And what cataracts is the glass here has an extra layer of glass bonded to the CRT itself, and there's this clear, optically clear glue in between the safety glass and the CRT, and that will degrade, and then you get this kind of pattern, sort of it becomes hard to see through, and it gets all like it's decaying and everything. And it's that glue. And there's a way to take it all apart and get the glue out of there and take the safety glass off. But apparently with the CRTs that use safety glass, if you have taken that off, it's now dangerous because that is part of the implosion protection. Most CRTs have an implosion band around them. I've talked about that before. And that prevents the front glass from expanding, which would be required because I'm trying to demonstrate, it's curved like that. So if it's going to implode, it's going to go in. And that in part means it just slightly expands. Oh, my computer's done. That was erasing an SD card there. So this steel band around the screen stops that. Well, that optically clear glue plus that extra layer of glass is the equivalent of that. And I guess you don't have the implosion band in that case. So you take that glass off, then it's dangerous because you don't have any protection, and you do have to kind of glue it back in and handle the whole thing very carefully. But this thing, I don't know if it's got the safety glass on there, but it certainly looks really good. Now, here's something interesting. Remember I said this is probably an amber screen? I actually figured out a way to be able to tell what color screen it has, and you use a UV flashlight. So this is like just one of those cheap UV flashlights. I think I got it to repair my windshield or something. I put this orange tape on here so I could, recognize that this was UV and not just a normal one. Okay, I went ahead and turned off the lights, and now if we shine this at the screen, if this were a green phosphor screen, it would glow bright fluorescent green. If it was white, I think, I don't even remember now. Let's just see what it looks like here. Okay, so we're getting this kind of bluish color. It's kind of washing out in the camera, but it's a purple blue color. I'm pretty sure this is not green, because if it was green, it would be bright green, fluorescent green. I'm gonna grab a couple extra monitors so we can compare. All right, here's a Macintosh, and this has a green phosphor CRT in it. And if we point at here, I don't know if it's all washed out, but that is super duper bright green. I'm holding the flashlight as far as I can away so it doesn't wash out. But yeah, it's fluorescent green. But that one, purple. That one, green. And here is a Apple IIc monitor, and this actually has a white phosphor screen in. That's not normal, I swapped it out, but if we point this there, you see the purple? And there, yep, it glows white. I know you're probably seeing a little bit of purple, I'll hold it off angle, but to my eyes, it is extremely white. So the UV just glows white on a white screen, purple on an amber screen, and green on a green CRT. Now, the problem with amber screens that I've found is that they typically wear out more quickly than green and white, especially. There's a paper white type screen, those wear out pretty quickly as well. But the white, the bluish white phosphor you see on Macintoshes, those are pretty long lived, as are the green. And for whatever reason, every time I run into amber screens, they always seem to be really dim and worn out. Although looking at this one, I don't immediately see any burn-in. So that's a good sign, because terminals can often just be left forever displaying static content. You can disable the screensaver on them, and then you get this burn-in. But this one looks good. So I think before I turn this on, I'm just gonna open this thing up, and we'll see what we see inside. Maybe there's a refa, I don't know. Maybe there's something disconnected. It doesn't sound like there's stuff floating around inside, so that's a good sign. If you hear loose parts, definitely open it up first. But let me grab a screwdriver. So my assumption here is I have to pop up this little button. I assume there's a screw underneath it. Yes. Whoops, drop that. Oh, thing is done imaging. An SD card, there's the screw. I think there's just one screw on this monitor that takes it apart. I called it a monitor. It's actually a terminal. Now, I would estimate the date of when this is from to be very late 80s or into the 90s. That place I worked that I was talking about, I think it's a captive screw. It doesn't seem to do anything. It's kind of moving around. Oh, I see more of those little caps on the bottom. So, yep, here's another one there. Here's one here. I mean, I like that they put those little trim pieces on there, but is that really necessary? Well, not really. I don't think anyone's ever been in this monitor necessarily. I think this is just sort of, the little cap went missing. Now I see there's little inserts here. Maybe there was a nice tilt swivel type base you could get for this, like an option of some kind. Oh, okay, not captive screw. The place I worked, oh, there we go. All right, this thing's well made. Very nice. I keep trying to say the same thing. The place I worked had these, but it was in the 90s I worked there. Early-ish 90s, early to mid 90s, and they still had some of these terminals. They were being replaced at that time though. Okay, down here, there's a sticker. I don't know if this is gonna be in focus, but it says date, May. It looks like 1985 or 1986. Looks like General Electric made the material. Molders Standard Knob Company Limited, UL designation, but yeah, material. General Electric Norel PX 1541. So I guess GE made the material, and the company, Standard Knob Company, made the case. Okay, so looking at this thing, I've never been inside one of these actually. So we have a PCB here with a little bit of protection, danger high voltage. Obviously this is the part of the terminal that handles the screen and everything. And if we turn this sideways here, we have another PCB here, which is clearly used for the digital interface. So this has the composite video jack on it and the serial port. And it looks to be in pretty good shape. This is just sort of a tape that's covering the ribbon cable. Well, we have a little bodge wire here. We have tons of ROMs on this thing. Looks like we have an Intel, let's say 8051. I mean, that could be the processor for this thing. Could also be handling the keyboard routines. What do we got here? I don't even recognize what these chips are here. That's a CRT 9007. So that's a CRT controller. It's like a 6845, but it's an alternate one. Very commonly used with lots of Z80 machines back from the old days. From a date code perspective, 84. This one's 85. Let's see, what do I see here? 85, 4th week. So we're gonna guess that this thing is definitely from 1985, which coincides with what we saw on the bottom. Some of these chips are gonna be SRAM for like video display memory and things like that. Some of these are going to be ROMs, and there's probably gonna be like serial controllers, although that could be a serial controller, but it could be any one of these. This is definitely SRAM right there for sure. These are probably ROM chips. These have part numbers that probably are like DEC part numbers. I'm just not familiar with Digital Electronics Corporation, so just not super familiar. Looking at this thing, it's got a nice little like metal screw thing here. I guess that holds this PCB on for easy servicing. Don't see any batteries on here. That's what I was wondering if there was one. We just have a few caps. We don't have any surface mount capacitors. We got some large ground straps right here and here to ground this board to the CRT itself. Looking here at the CRT, it's like a little dusty right here, but things look really, really good. I'm going to say that this thing is not high hour, which is excellent. That means that we might actually have a picture that's not super dim. We've got a ground strap right here. I haven't run this monitor, by the way. I've had this for a while, and I have not turned it on. So it is totally safe in here. This has not been plugged into the wall in probably many, many years. CRT itself, it's made by Philips, part number M31-344LA/PD. Maybe the A in the part number there has to do with amber. It's quite possible. I just love how absolutely clean and awesome this looks inside though. I've seen other terminals when I open them and it's sooty, it's black, it's very well used. You could just tell it had a hard life, or it was used for its intended purpose. This one on the other hand, yeah, looks good. I like this metal bar structure that Digital used here. It kind of keeps this whole thing together. The outside case on a lot of cheaper screens is actually part of the structure. It's like you could think of it as like a unibody design. This, on the other hand, is not like that. This has its own frame structure, and that top cover doesn't really do anything to add any strength or rigidity to this. Everything is just solid metal, like holding that. These bars, back panel here is just really, really well made. Now looking around on this PCB that controls the monitor here on the bottom, and it's going to be hard to really show that, but there are a couple controls right here. One of them is V high, so V height, I guess. There are two controls right there. The other one doesn't have a label on it actually. And over here on this side, we have focus, we have phase, which would be horizontal position, I suppose, and horizontal hold. Horizontal hold is actually the frequency controlled for the horizontal oscillator that's inside of this. As far as my understanding goes, these terminals output NTSC. So plugging into that external composite output should just give us a monochrome 80 column style NTSC video. Now you can kind of see those three controls. So focus, phase, and horizontal hold. Things look really good, like clean. I mean, there's a bit of dust in here, but I don't see any issues. It's not leaking. There's just, this is freaking awesome. Trying to, hopefully the camera is focused, but there is a little control right down there. Don't know what that does, but I have to say that knowing Digital, this thing probably has good documentation. There are service docs for this thing, so it would be fixable. I do recall hearing about the fact that the flybacks go bad on these though. And I don't know if there's any kind of modern replacement for them. It does have some glue right here, that brown stuff, and that absorbs water. And unfortunately, it can cause corrosion. If it goes inside, it absorbs water over time, and then it can cause like this metal bar to rust and break, or other issues like that. Sometimes what I like to do is just what I'm doing here and just sort of scrape it away. Usually when it gets water ingress like it has here, it just chips away very easily. So it's actually pretty easy to chip it away. Usually it's more of an issue when it's on the PCB. So say they put it down here on these components to kind of hold them on an IC, or say on a capacitor and near an IC, then it can cause those leads to rust and everything. But yeah, there's that glue. When it turns this dark brown color, it just becomes filled with water and conductive. So not good. Now when it comes to refuzz, I don't see a refa anywhere in here, but see this big can here? This is the IEC input. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some refuzz in there. Unfortunately, this is all sort of welded together. There's no easy way to access that. So if this thing has a refa and it lets go, it's gonna smoke, but unless you take this whole thing and kind of pry it apart, there's really no easy way to get in there. So you just have to beware that it's possible there's one inside of there, but there's no way for us to easily see it or access it or even change it. Looking at the back of this, looks like that box is riveted on, has a couple screws, but also has some rivets, or no. Maybe these two screws would take it all out, and probably, I don't know, you could cut it apart, put a new simple IEC input, because that would have the same shape as this, and just gut the rest of that box, because all you need to do is hook the live, the earth, and the neutral up to the power supply, and you'd be fine. So it would be possible to bypass that. But honestly, if the smoke let go in there, I'd probably just leave it. Once those reefas open, when they burn with the smoke, nothing really happens at that point. They just don't do anything anymore. They're not in circuit and they don't cause any issues. But also, oh, by the way, please be aware though, just having this plugged in while the set is off could still cause those reefas in there, if they are in there, to let the smoke out. So it's a good reminder that you should always unplug your old electronics or use a power switch with a power strip, that is with a power switch. You shouldn't leave this old stuff plugged in because you just don't want it to like sort of let a bunch of smoke out when you don't expect it, even when it's turned off. And that's because the reefa's in here before the power switch. So keep that in mind. All right, let's plug this in and turn it on and see what happens. So mains power cord, which is currently off, but this is set to the off position. So plug that in. Mains is turned on now. See what happens. I'll keep it this way in case anything goes sparking and flames or whatever. Here we go. I heard high voltage. That is awesome. That means this thing is coming to life. Don't know on this particular terminal. Do we get anything on screen? I don't see anything. Let's see about these controls on the side here. Oh, hey, there it is. And it is amber. It is amber. Oh, yes. All right. I think there is burn-in, first of all. Oh, it's bright. That's good. Okay, I got to reposition, turn off the lights and stuff so we can see this better. All right, look at that. That glorious, super awesome looking amber, and it's in great shape. It's really bright. I was really just anticipating that it would look like garbage. Of course, if you turn it up all the way, which it is right now, it's blooming a little bit, but that's to be expected. But that looks pretty good. And if you're in a dim environment, yeah, it looks great. If this were green or white, it would look a lot brighter than this. I'd be able to turn it up more brightly and before it started to kind of get fuzzy and bloom, but looks good. So it's saying VT-220 keyboard error for, of course, no keyboard plugged in. So I'll power this off and let's plug in the keyboard. I think one thing I am going to do is just give this keyboard just a spritz here. Just clean off some of the grime that's on here because it's quite dirty. All right, that looks a whole lot better. Now I'm noticing, it's going to be hard to see because I have the lights off. This button says setup. Well, that says hold screen, print screen, setup. So I think that should bring up some options on this thing. Main screen, exit, bunch of stuff. But this says DeckMate WPS version 2.1. So I think there's a little like template here that comes out and it was designed for DeckMate specifically. All right, let's power this back up. We've got some flashing lights here. Blinky, blinky. But that went away pretty quickly. And it just said wait. And there it says VT-220. Okay, thumbs up. Right, now what? Do I push setup? All right, nice. Let's get in closer. VT-220 version 2.0, display, general, comm, printer. Right, I think I should just be able to scroll around here. Let's go to display, press enter to take action. Enter. It's enter on the numeric keypad, not the return key. That's interesting. So 80 columns, 132 columns. That's sweet. Display setup to next setup. General setup, communications, printer setup, keyboard setup, tab setup. What is to directory? Oh, that's just back where we were. Okay. I think these are all pretty standard options here. Auto wrap, we have jump scroll, smooth scroll. So yes, it does support perfectly smooth scrolling of the text. It looks pretty sweet, but it is a bit slow. Light text, dark screen, or inverse. Ah, yes. And now I definitely see burn-in. Quite a bit of burn-in on this screen. So it's pretty bright, all things considered. Let's see if I can get this to focus a bit better on the top where the burn-in is. Is that showing up? I can see all sorts of alphanumeric keypad characters, especially over here. A whole bunch of burn-in. In fact, there's burn-in all through all of this here. So yeah, we do have burn-in on this. It's not the end of the world. I mean, it's not perfect. So if I were trying to have a perfect terminal, this is not that. But considering it's been well used, it's actually not that dark and pretty clean inside. So that's pretty sweet. And obviously, if we switch this to that mode, it's a little harder to see the burn-in, right? Unless you have the white background, or orange, or amber, as in this case. So general setup, we have VT100 mode. So that is the terminal emulation mode that this thing supports. Now, DEC, of course, invented the VT100 terminal. So anytime you see that on your Linux system or Unix or whatever, yeah, that's an original DEC terminal. Now, this can operate in multiple modes. So we have VT-220, 7-bit and 8-bit controls, VT-52, which is an even earlier version of the terminal, I think. I'm not totally versed on all my DEC stuff. And then VT100, which is the most standard thing on all Unixes that's pretty much supported. What those modes allow you to do beyond just print text on the screen is there are all sorts of extra cursor codes, or like control codes, to move the cursor around and draw boxes, and allow or support extra keys on the keyboard, like these extra function keys down here. All this stuff works through these VT100 modes. If you just hook this up to a normal serial console, you'll get text and everything. I think, Control L will clear the screen, stuff like that. But there's a whole bunch of extra commands for VT100 and VT220 to allow like larger text, bold text, inverted colors. So, these boxes, all sorts of fancy stuff. If you're using MS-DOS back in the day, I'm pretty sure that MS-DOS and C.sys is based off VT100, and it has some extensions for color and stuff like that. I think. I don't really remember all my exact lineage that well. And you can set the ID, and looks like VT, yeah, you can give it the return ID. So VT220, 100, 101, 102, and that's what the terminal reports back to the system that's connected. And here's our communication setup screen. Let me zoom in a little bit on that. This is, of course, what we're going to need to fiddle with if we want to use this with anything. So bits per second from 75 all the way to 19.2. That is the highest you can go. So there's no 115, 200, no 38.4, none of those. You're pretty much stuck at 19.2 as the highest speed you can go. And it looks like you can actually set independently the transmit and receive. Kind of funny. X on, X off. You could set the amount of bits and parity for the serial connection. So of course it's like 8 bits, 7 bits. Parity is odd, even, or none. So yep, see, we can kind of scroll through this. 7 bits, even parity, blah, blah, blah. Most typical is 8 bits and no parity. Oh, and then 1 stop bit. This is all part of the serial protocol. 2 or 1, 8, 1, and no parity. That's the most common. Local echo, if we turn that on, of course, that means that as we type on the keyboard, then it will show what we're typing. Otherwise, it doesn't do anything. It just transmits the letters you type back to the host that's connected, and then it's supposed to echo back. Normally, you would have that off if you're plugged into a system. You want to know that the serial port's good. So if you type a key, it sends it to the system, and it replies back and prints the character, and you know you're working. If local echo's on, you don't really know that it's actually gotten through to the other end. EIA port, data leads only. Modem control, 20 milliamps, that's the current loop, so that's that other connector on the back. I don't know what the difference between modem control and data leads. Maybe ring indicator and carrier detect and all that kind of stuff, which are signals on that 25-pin connector. Maybe that tells it whether to use those or not. I don't really know. Disconnect, 60 milliseconds, and unlimited transmit. Limited transmit. I don't know what that means. All right, printer setup. It allows us to set up that extra port on the back there to print locally, and there are commands for the VT220 and maybe the 100 that can tell the host system, hey, print, and it prints with your locally attached printer. Kind of cool, but whatever, I don't need to fiddle with that stuff. Keyboard setup. Typewriter keys, data processing keys, okay. Caps lock, auto repeat. You can turn that off and on. Oh, key click. I like the key click. Now we have a bit of a click. Margin bell, so when the cursor gets over here, you get a little extra beep to tell you like you're at the edge of your screen. That is very old school, you don't really need that. No warning bell. Warning bell. I'm assuming that means the host system can send a control G signal and makes this thing beep. These terminals, the speaker is inside the keyboard. I don't think it's in the terminal itself. We didn't see one in there. I'm pretty sure there's a little beeper in here. Next, we have tab setup. So yeah, you can set up your tab stops and whatnot. Whatever, it's set to that many, 10 characters per tab, I guess. And that's it, display setup, we are done. And I think pushing the setup key will exit out of there. And there we go, we got our block cursor, and of course local echo. Oh, I thought I had local echo off, but it seems to be on because it's actually typing. Oh, local echo is turned on. That's why when I typed, we actually got stuff. Turning that off there, if you hit setup, now when we type, nothing happens. We just hear key clicks. Anyhow, this thing does appear to be working. I need to grab something to plug into this so we can actually see it do something. All right, there we go. So I have a little box here. This has an ESP8266 in here with an RS232, I don't know, driver board essentially that goes from TTL to that. And we are connected. It connects to Wi-Fi. So this is a Wi-Fi modem, of course, for any old serial device. And that's what we have right here. So when it comes to connecting to Telnet BBSs, if you just go onto Google, you'll find I don't know, websites filled with those things. And instead of typing Telnet to connect to the BBS, because that doesn't do anything, you use ATD, which is an old Hayes command to dial a phone number. But I see one on the list called oddnetwork.org, and you just do ATD in that. And I think I messed that up. Oddnetwork.org. Keyboard appears to be working properly. Ah, look, it connects. But it prints a little bit of garbage there. No carrier. What's going on with this thing? Okay, I figured it out. I went and read the documentation a little bit. ATDT, you got to put the extra T. That's for like telnet mode, I think. There's like a P for PETSCII emulation mode. A couple different things like that. I was connecting to oddnetwork.org. Oh, it just hung up right away. But at least we didn't get any garbage there, right? Let's try a different one here. This is the problem, is you don't know if these are online or not. Oh, that's not even working. Why? I think I have very old firmware on here, so could be that some of the stuff that said to do, like quotes, didn't work. Oh, hey, that's working. Look at that. Okay, press escape. Oh, where's the escape key? Exit? Oh, shoot, I don't even know. The escape would be like up here, but that's hold screen, print screen setup, interrupt, resume, exit, alt, care, escape. I think that's it right there. So you type /, that should call it back. And now we push that twice. There we go. I think it was trying to display some kind of ANSI or ASCII graphics there that don't work on a real VT100 terminal. Welcome to the Altair 4 BBS. Enter your username. I don't know. Let's just put in Adrian. What happens? The account name was not located. If you wish to create a new account, answer yes. Sure. Oh, enter your alias or handle. Okay, so pushing the backspace key doesn't actually backspace. Control H. That does work. I wonder if that's something we can fix. Let's see here. I've not immediately seen how to change the backspace key. I don't think there is a way. I mean, there's user-defined keys, but normal cursor keys? No, I don't know. That's probably fine. No new line. Well, that's annoying. Incidentally, I didn't talk about this before, but it has reset terminal, recall, and save. I think what save does is saves it to like an EPROM inside the machine. There's no actual battery, which is very handy. All right, well anyways, enter your alias. Notice there's like bold text here, so it's using some of those control codes. Maybe it's not coming across the camera. Adrian's Digital Basement. Enter your full real name. Adrian Black. Whoops, typo, I gotta hit Control H. City and state. Portland, Oregon. Now you have to create a password. All right, password entered. Password not compliance. Oh boy, we have to have complexity. Okay, that worked. Create account. If you've made mistakes, okay, we'll just hit enter. How about them bears? One-liners. So it's obviously using like the PC character set, which is not on here. That's why we're not getting the actual lines here. I think this does have lines. They're just different than what a PC would use. So if you're connecting to this from a PC, you're going to get the correct bar there, you know, lines here, and instead we're just getting these things. No hacks, you noob. Bunch of people just putting random stuff here. I'm going to say, enter my own one-liner. Yes. Adrian Black. Black was here. May 2024. There you go. Adrian Digital B. I don't know if my username actually all worked there. Do we want to add another liner? No. We have 9 new bulletins. So anyways, this is it, like BBSing. Oh, I assume that's supposed to say bulletin in nice letters. Welcome to the Altair BBS. About the BBS. Let's look at what about says. This BBS was started as a way for me to continue playing with some of my favorite door games, such as Legend of the Red Dragon, Lord. There are more than 40 games available at this time. Under the Doors menu option, you can choose blah, 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 a bunch of door stuff. Continue, sure, we'll just hit continuous. Oh, there was no more there anyways. All right, what do we do here? Commands. All right, we're gonna quit to the main menu. Looks like just some more announcements. All right, multi-validator. So yeah, this is it. This is it. Using a BBS here. We are just a regular user. So we'll just hit 1, checking your account, validating your account. All right, sure, regular user. We can be on for 90 minutes per day. Cool. Oh, it does have my full username there. I have been validated. All right, so there it is. We're on a BBS. We're connected through a terminal from 1985. I mean, not sure people would really be doing this with a modem back in the day, but you never know. They might have been. There's a voting booth. Let's check that out. Let's vote on a question. V. I don't think there are any questions because it just goes right back to the menu there. Add a new question. What are you using to connect to this BBS? Enter choices now. Vintage IBM PC with a Wi-Fi modem. Commodore 64 or 128. DEC VT-220 terminal. There we go. Allow users to add their own answers. Sure, yes. Save the voting question, yes. All right, let's vote on a question now. There it is. What are you using to connect to this BBS? I'm going to be the only person using a DEC 220. See results? Yes. 100% DEC VT-220. Sweet. All right, well, there we have it. So it's a VT-220 terminal from 1985, and it freaking just works. A little bit of burn-in in there, a little bit of cleaning required still, but I'm pretty excited this thing is in great shape, and that means I'll be able to use it for my upcoming project on the main channel, or we'll be able to hook this up and see it working on a period-correct machine. So that's going to be it for this video. If you liked it, thumbs up. If you didn't, you know what to do. If you have experiences using these DEC terminals, I'd love to hear about it in the comment section. And don't forget about VCF in Dallas and VCF in Chicago that I'm going to be at. So definitely stop by to say hello. I love to see all my fans. Huge thanks to all my patrons. Their names are scrolling beside the screen. They make it possible I do this full time. And if you want to become a patron, you can do so at the link in the description below. And you know, all the usual other YouTube stuff. So stay healthy, stay safe. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.